record. Okay, so I'm just going to let everybody know this is being recorded. We are going to take it and save it and allow other people to watch it because not everybody can join live. And these meetings are growing in popularity. We've already got 21 people in-house now, currently in the actual Zoom meeting.
Oh, fine.
And, huh?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay. And we've been getting around 1,000 people or so watching the live stream. So this is being streamed live. If you don't want to be recorded or you don't want to be on camera, that's what's going on here. So don't turn your video on or do comments or anything like that. We've had some people that said they didn't want to be on camera or recorded. So I'm just letting people know and putting that out as a disclosure right now. Let's everybody keep our microphones off and muted until we are called upon, and that'll give Phil, our guest, a chance to talk and not be interrupted and tell us about Framon Manufacturing. This is probably one of the most recognizable staple mark tools and manufacturers in the industry. The Framon #2 key machine has got to be the workhorse and the almighty tank of key machines. You want to tell us more about how you got started, Phil, and how Framon Manufacturing got started, and tell us a little bit about you and the company.
Sure, yeah. So Framon was started by my dad, Frank. He was Detroit initially. Oh, yeah. You okay?
You're good.
Okay. So anyway, he lived down in Detroit. He was always liked working with his hands. Didn't have the opportunity to finish high school. He was born in 1925, so along about the time of the Depression. He was 14, 15 years old. Had to quit school and had to go work to help feed the family, as many other people of that generation did. Wound up doing a lot of woodworking, cabinet maker. Worked in Detroit for several years, got married to my mom. Was not a real fan of unions and got sick of that lifestyle. He was always the guy that did a lot of work. He was able to do some kind of neat jobs. He used to work for the Ford family. The cabinet company that he worked for did a lot of work for them. So he would wind up over at the Ford's house, 3 generations back, and did a lot of their woodwork in their house and things like that. But eventually got sick of kind of Detroit, the big city, and that environment, and promptly came home one day and announced to my mom that they were moving to Alpena, which is, I can pretty much guarantee, aside from John Hubel, who's with us tonight, few people have been through Alpena. It's a small town of about 11,000 people. We're on Lake Huron, up in the northeastern part of Michigan. And my mom enjoyed the big city life, had a good job working for General Motors, and my dad just kind of grabbed her, and up here they came. So he opened up a cabinet shop here in Alpena, did that for about 10 years. One of his reps one day told him there was a need here for locksmiths, for a locksmith or somebody to do that type of work. So he took Leonard Singer's correspondence course and just kind of started learning how to do locksmith work.
Wow.
Wasn't happy with his machinery, designed the one that's sitting here in front of me today. This is my dad's original prototype. I think everybody can kind of see that. Borrowed a spigot handle off of mom's laundry tub to as one of the axes. So this is the original one. This actually at one time had a motor on it, and it was a working version of the original code machine.
Wow. Wow, that's unique. That's a piece of history right there. And it screams inventor with the miscellaneous, just whatever you had. That just speaks to that whole generation. You just used what you had and you made it work, Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. So how did he actually come up with the idea for that particular machine?
He worked in a lot of machine shops and cabinet shops and things like that. And really the #2 is just, kind of like a mill, basically. It's got an X-axis and a Y-axis on it. Figured if he got in touch with the lock manufacturers and got their specifications on depths and spaces, it would be an easy way to, to originate keys. Unfortunately, once he got going with this, he found out nobody was going to give him that information. So there were a lot of nights at our kitchen table where he would just sit down with dial calipers and a pad of paper and locks and keys and just decode things. So, so yeah, it was all very from scratch, right from the word go. He applied for a patent for it in 1971. A little bit prior to that, his distributor was Hugo Solomon and Son in Detroit, and later known as HSNS. But a gentleman named Sam Solomon heard about the invention and came up to see it and helped him get a company started. And so Framon comes from FRA, from my dad's first name, Frank, and MON is from Sam Solomon's last name. So, so they and a few other investors got things going, and Sam was the exclusive distributor of the machine for several years. And then it just kind of ballooned from there. More inventions. He applied for a patent in 71, received it in 1975 on this, and then just kind of continued to build a company. So,
wow. That's great. So he started, did he run the locksmith business the entire time that he was doing that as well and doing that as extra?
Yes. So the locksmith shop was, a local business, obviously. And yeah, my brother came along in 1978, graduated from high school, didn't really want to do anything other than work in the shop. So my brother was helping him out for years, and Mike's the president nowadays. And then another fellow came along, one of my brother's friends, and he turned into the serviceman for the locksmith shop. And I really had no interest in this. I was going to be an engineer and live up in Alaska, but things changed a little bit for me in 1992. So here I sit. But yeah, and they just, continued to progress. So my dad would do the trade shows and a little bit of the lock work. Mike would run the shop and put key machines together. Milt would do the service work. And my mom and then my sister came into the business and did the bookwork. So that was kind of the crew for probably 15 or 20 years that kind of kept things going.
Nice. That's awesome. That's amazing.
Uh-huh.
So what was his original frustration? Was he just didn't like the existing key machine? What was even available as a code machine back then?
Really, back then, the Acme would be the only one, the old Ilco with the discs on it. And of course, Curtis Clippers were available at that time. There was no HPC 1200 out. So this was all prior to any of the, what we would consider, more modern code machines. So,
right.
So yeah, he came along with this, and it wasn't long after he came out with this that the 1200 came out. It was probably within 5 or 10 years. But yeah, just he didn't have any equipment. He couldn't stand what he had. So he wasn't a fan of any of the equipment. So he wanted a little more versatility where he could do his own thing. If he wanted to widen a cut, it wouldn't be a difficult thing to do. And so this fit the bill.
Right. No, that's amazing. Mm-hmm. So fast forward a little bit further, he's got this machine. Did he actually get a patent on it, or was it not patentable?
He did, actually, behind me back there in the, if I tilted the camera up a little bit, so he had a patent in 1975 on the machine. It was finally issued, and he really just kept going. Our TKM 100 machine was patented, I think, in 1983. I think he applied for that in 1981. There were several patents that he received, I think 5 in total. We had a drill fixture. He did patent a punch machine, wasn't really a fan of punching keys, so he never really proceeded with it. And then, let's see, I'm trying to think. I believe he had 5 key machine patents altogether. So
five of them altogether?
Yeah, and we don't really even apply for anything anymore. We've gotten into a couple of things with patents, and it's regardless of whether you're issued a patent, if somebody else jumps on your patent, it's the same thing. It costs you $250,000 to go to court to try and prove yourself right. So it's one of those things. You come out with something, you sell as many as you can. And
it's first to market. I mean, even if you get a patent, it's very easy to reverse engineer it. And if somebody has more resources and it's whoever brings it to marketplace and sells it first. That's who's getting it. You're going to get knocked off. You're going to have all of these other things happen. And I mean, it is sad, but the patent office is not caught up with the spread of social media and the way things move now. I mean, before, even 10 or 15 years ago, you would at least have a good solid 2-year gap. If you got a patent and you got it issued and you brought your product to market in the 90s and early 2000s, you could get away with that for a while, and it would be 2 years before somebody would knock you off. Now it's months. As soon as it comes out, basically, like a week later, they've got a knockoff of it. It's that crazy. But that's how fast it works with the social media now, you know? So things just spread like wildfire. So tell me a little bit more about let's move it up to when did he start doing trade shows, and when did Aloha conventions and things like that start taking off?
So, I would say in the early 70s, my dad, I mean, almost immediately he started going to trade shows, because that was back then. There was, you could put an ad in a trade magazine, but no social media, no anything. You really had to go to trade shows to show off what you were doing. So, yeah, so I mean, he was doing trade shows all the time. Aloha was a regular. There were more back then in the 70s and the 80s. You had more association shows. Most of the associations would have shows. New Jersey, Penn, Ohio. Bill was a member of Penn, Ohio. But primarily they were all association shows.
Right.
Your distributor shows didn't come out a little bit later, I guess. Lawrence Locksmith Supply in New York used to have a big one at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, I think, is where they always had their show, but right in New York City. But most of it was not distributor shows. It was primarily associations.
Right. Okay. And then now tell me a little bit more. You were telling me that there was two guys that used to do locksmith education and training. I thought, did you say like Bill and Frank or somebody?
Yeah.
Would do those?
So, fast forward a little bit, mid 80s, my dad hooked up with Bill Reed, who was the editor of the Locksmith Ledger. Everybody's heard of Reed Code Book. So I think it was Bill's great grandfather started the Reed Code Book system in the early 1900s. But Bill and my dad became friends just through advertising and whatnot, and articles that my dad would submit for product info and things like that. And they decided to go on the road and do free education for the locksmiths, which at that time was not really heard of. I mean, if you wanted to take a class, you had to pay for it back then. So, at one time, my dad was spending about 100 days on the road a year. You got to keep in mind, my dad was born in 1925. So in 1975, when he got his patent, he was 50 years old. Right. So he just started building a business at 50, 55 years old. And so by the time all these trade shows and all this running around started, he was 60. So now he's out spending, 80 to 100 days on the road in airplanes. And travel was easier back then. It was a little bit easier to get through airports and whatnot.
Back when we could smoke on airplanes.
He did. My dad was a good smoker. Yep. So never missed a chance to have a cigarette.
Oh man.
I think I probably have 3 pictures of him without a cigarette in his hand. So he was pretty regular with that. But
oh my goodness. Well, that's good. So that's that's kind of why I really I liked the idea. You and I had chatted before about, having some kind of training. John and I are kind of partnered up in doing a lot of that stuff. We travel around to the trade shows and provide electronic access training and things like that. And why did he offer it for free? You said it was one of the first ones to offer some free education. Was there selling points to selling the machines? Was that the driving factor? Was he just trying to help people, or what was the motivator?
Yeah, so they would do a code clinic, so at that time, codes were in their infancy. There were some codes that were out. Of course, the Recode book system was probably 9 volumes old at that time. Eventually, there was 15. But a lot of people watching probably remember, you would see every issue of the Ledger, every issue of Keynotes, the National Locksmith would have new codes in it. I mean, it would be 20 or 30 pages of new codes. And so there was always things to update people on. And of course, in between the class and lunch breaks and things like that, they would have a product area where people could look at the different machines and things like that. So, I mean, it was a great leap for Framon to be involved in this and, have the opportunity to see so many people. I mean, over they're running around, they must have met 15,000 people over the years in all these different areas. They did some in Europe and not so much overseas, but I mean, they ran around for years and did this. So they ran into a lot of different people.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's a great way. And it's marketing genius right there. We've got a product. Ads are really expensive. I'm sure they were utilizing that, but really nothing sells a product like, here, I'm going to show you how to use it. You can touch it, you can feel it, you can hold it, you can actually cut a key out on it. You can see how this compares to this and how much easier it makes your life. All of a sudden you see the value added in it. And it's like, this thing's built like a tank. It's going to outlast most locksmiths. So there's a whole difference in seeing a product on paper in 2D in a magazine and actually feeling it, touching it, holding it, and using it. And he capitalized on that. He just stumbled right into it, and obviously caught massive traction with it, and then got to meet a whole lot of people. I'm sure that opened up a ton of doors for the company and for him and for everybody.
Yeah, and as they went along, they added other people. I mean, most people have heard of Hank Spicer. Hank began teaching with them. Jerry Finch, Jerry McNichol, Mark Miller was doing a little bit of work, and his dad. So different locations, different people would drop in, and it was just all these, pretty big players in the industry that would show up and teach classes, and but they had their fun on the road. Believe me, they had a great time traveling together. And my dad was a very blue collar guy. He loved working with his hands. Locksmithing was his thing. And, he loved his family, but second was locksmiths. He loved talking to locksmiths and teaching classes. I mean, it was his element. It was, it's too bad he didn't find it 20 years before, because it fit him like a glove. So.
Right. Well, I mean, for somebody to actually find what they're that passionate about and be able to do it and be able to bring it to other people and be able to support their families and live and thrive with it is truly something special. That's really the definition of success in life, to be perfectly honest. Do something that you love, do it every day. You really don't work a day in your life. At least that's the way I look at it. And every person that I've ever trained, I've told them, even in classes and whatnot, I tell them locksmithing is not a job. It's not a career. This is a privilege. This profession is a privilege to do. And you get that privilege to be able to perform that task. You show up, you're the hero. You unlock a car, you got a mom who's got a kid locked in there. You're the hero. It's the only job where we can walk out and, if you're doing a simple unlock for $125, you get a $50 tip and a smile on their face. You make a $300 or $400 key and they give you another $100 tip. I mean, these things have all happened, and they're so happy and thankful that you're there. It's really like you're performing magic, because they don't understand how you're doing it. They just know that you fixed it. It didn't work, and now it does. So that's really cool.
Locksmithing, hardware, the whole thing, the programming keys. I mean, it's a very complex. I mean, I never understood how much there was to door hardware until we started selling steel doors in the shop. I mean, I was kind of the one at the shop that jumped on the steel doors.
Right.
One supplier in town wasn't a very good one, but oh my gosh, I mean, it used to be just, we'd sell 400 T-Tilo knobs, and now, I mean, the amount of hardware we go through and the different situations, fire codes, things like that pop up, electronics. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, it's a full-time job just keeping up with the new things that come out.
It really is. It really is. And then, everything's transforming right now from, mechanical to electronics. And that there's a whole nother wave to ride there. And then every year there's more products that are coming out. I'm just going to get to some of the questions. We have a lot of people. This is a very popular meeting. We've got about 43 people in the Zoom meeting, and we got about 10 people watching on live as well. So let's see. It says, was this made by a machinist? Was your dad a machinist? Did he have a machinist background?
Yeah. My dad was I would call Wayne Howard the modern day equivalent of my dad. Wayne was the same way. If you know Wayne from Laser Key Products, neither one had any formal training. They jumped into a machine shop. They picked it up, and it just kind of, my dad spent a lot of time in a machine shop and had a lot of good people, obviously show them what to do. So, I mean, when you look at a number two, when you look at our equipment, no plastic guards, no fancy colors. I mean, if you drop it on the floor, that's okay, because it's still going to work. So
that's exactly right. So, and then the question right under that from Gilbert was, what kind of help did your dad get from manufacturers? It sounded like he didn't get a lot of help at all.
None. Yeah, that was one of his biggest complaints throughout the years was how little he sent out. Chicago Lock, Arrow, Best, everybody. Tell me how to cut your keys. What are your depths and spaces? And got no responses except for Chicago Lock, and Chicago Lock said we don't disclose that. So that was the help he got. So it was sitting down. If you look at some of our old information, my dad, as you know, when you measure a key, I mean, sometimes it's right on the money, sometimes it's a few thousandths off if you're measuring a worn key. So he kind of looked at that and knew that, between the number one depth and a 2 and a 3 and a 4, it should be a consistent number. But occasionally, him trying to figure that out, the numbers might be a thousandth off or, a half a thousandth off or something like that. So we really had to go back years ago and update some of our information because there just wasn't, it was never given out. And then later on, 25 years later, when it was, we had to go back and update to kind of correct some of those things.
Can you imagine if he was here, like in this technology age where you just type in anything into Google and you've got more information, you got depth and spacing charts for everything at the touch of a fingertip right now.
Right.
That's crazy. Bill, do you have a question? It looks like Bill's got his hand up. You have a question?
Just had two statements. One, Phil was saying about his dad sitting at a kitchen table. I remember Penn, Ohio conventions with he and Wiggy Jensen sitting there. When they worked selling machines, they were sitting there comparing space and depths, trading information. And also remember his dad would at Penn, Ohio show would take a Framon 2, turn it upside down and drop it on the cement floor and then pick it up and cut a perfect Schlage key. And he'd say, now I dare you to do that with a 1200.
That's one of my dad's favorite things to do. I never dropped a key machine at a show because it would almost for certain something would go wrong. But my dad always used to do it. So, but yeah.
He'd do it 2 or 3 times during the show. It wasn't just once, he'd do it 2 or 3 times and just show how rugged the machine was. Just sold it.
Yeah, that I was gonna wait for that and bring it up a little bit later, but that's fine. That's great that you brought it up. That's just pure raw talent and engineering and marketing genius right there. Like you see a competing product across the way and just get frustrated enough like that thing's not built as well as mine, and to just get irritated enough to just do an actual demonstration right there on the fly to demonstrate that is it's marketing genius. Did you ever talk to him about why he did that, or what was there anything specific that came up with that idea or that concept?
No, I think he just knew that he made a better product and he was very proud of it. I mean, that out of all the machines he made, this was his favorite, and it just, it was just a great selling feature, and it was just kind of part of his show at a trade show, I guess I would say. So.
And you've not dropped one? You have not done that or repeated that
sales
tactic?
I don't know. I'm a little more bashful, I guess it shows. I don't want to create a big stir of a trade show. So yeah, over the years, I became friends with the gang at HPC. I mean, we were friendly competitors, and I don't know. I just, maybe it's the showmanship. I just don't have that little bit of showmanship in me.
Gotcha. I know when we did some promo videos for you, we dropped them on the concrete and then just showed that it cut exactly the same afterwards. And I mean, literally you pick it up, you drop it on the concrete. It doesn't change. If it does change, you can recalibrate your machine in the field on site, as long as you have a calibration, as long as you can get accurate measurements, which it comes with everything you need to be able to set your machine back up. I mean, it's rock solid. One of the bigger things that actually is a little bit more impressive to me is I put one of your machines into one of my service trucks. It has been wrecked twice, fairly severe wrecks. And the only thing that survived was the Framon number 2. I'm not lying. That's the only thing that insurance didn't have to recover. And I will tell you that there were other key machines mounted in that truck, and those got warrantied out and reissued. They couldn't even recalibrate them. They got damaged so badly. Your machine needed nothing. I don't even think I adjusted it. I just took it out, pulled out a key, made some cuts on it, did my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on there, and mic'd them out, and that was it. It was back on the road making money. And that was not staged. That was not done intentionally by any means, but it's just one of those things that's happened. And I've heard that from other people too. Have you heard that from people that have wrecked their vans and that's the only thing that made it?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen all kinds of repairs come in over the years, but though I do remember being at a trade show with my dad one time, and a guy brought one in that it looked like it went through a car wreck, because it did go through a car wreck. And I mean, the handles were bent, and I mean, it literally went through the front window of the car and rolled on the cement. So I mean, it was all dinged and banged up and everything like that. And my dad used to carry a full set of tools with him just in case for different things, and he would do repairs.
He'll rebuild it right there. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but anyway, he banged it around enough to where he could actually turn the handles, and he did cut a key, and it did work. I mean, it wasn't pretty getting all the handles back straight, but I mean, it was just just a funny story. But I mean, I was there for that one. But yeah, we've seen them come in here, and yeah, all states of disrepair just from different accidents and things like that. So
wow, that's crazy. We got a couple more questions in here. Thank you, Bill. That's great. That's all great information. Thank you for bringing all that stuff up. I appreciate it. If you do have questions, put them in the chat box. Towards the end of the meeting here, we can kind of open up microphones, but I don't want to do that just yet. Tyler Thomas says, Phil, was there ever any discussion or interest in taking over A1's tooling or product line when it became clear they weren't coming back?
So yes, we called. So A1 went under. I knew the two guys there, Rodney and Ricky. Kind of got word that they were being closed down. I called. So A1 was owned by Frank McCarthy. Got sold out. Kumsa, something like that. I think same company that owns All Lock. They got bought out by a bigger company. They got bought out by a bigger company. So there was about four different companies that kind of worked their way up the ladder. So the company that owned them was a multi-billion-dollar a year company. Called up, left a message for whoever was doing the teardown of A1 or getting rid of A1 or whatever they wanted to call it. Left several messages. Finally got a call back. The guy that called me said, "Hey, we're $1 billion a year company. This is $1 million a year company. We're throwing everything in the garbage, and that's that. We're not parting it out or anything like that." So they basically just locked the doors, threw everything in a dumpster, and called it good. So there were anything that was left of it went into the landfill. Wow. So we have been reverse engineering. So obviously we've got the bullseye now. So we've either been reverse engineering what they did, or I know Rodney pretty well that used to work there. He helps me out with some things, but the parent company said, we don't want anything to do with it. You can use the names, you can use if you have drawings, whatever, you can just make what you want. We're not going to get involved. It's done and over with. And so that's that.
Wow, that's sad. I mean, they had some really, really good stuff. They had some really good products. I know I would use their clippers. I like doing that. I would like taking the clippers out to a job, especially with these leashy tools and the things that we can make a key right there on site. You know, you can just stuck it in your pocket. I've since changed that and kind of come up with a little machine that I've just kind of bolted onto one of my pack out kits, and I just use that now. But yeah, it's too bad that A1 didn't let you take over more of that information, for sure. Let's go through some more of the comments here. Somebody asked, how much is your Framon number 2 going for right now?
So we will be having a price increase January 1st. $18.95 is the price on the machine right now. I think that's going to go up about $100. We see them all over the place at discounts. So, $18.95 would be the normal dealer price. I'd expect to pay within a couple $100 of that, $16.95 to $18.95.
Okay, good stuff. Let's see, a couple more questions here. Says Bob would drop a pin kit as well. Are you familiar with that?
Oh, I think I saw that. Bob from Lab Pin Kits, just to show that the kit wouldn't turn into pin soup when you dropped it.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so so I see what he's saying. He saw your dad probably do that, and then he's like, well, we'll throw this out there too because it's selling stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. Phil, I have a modified machine from John Cannon. I don't know what that does. That mean?
Probably a computerized code machine, one of our 2001 machines. John had one of those and modified it to cut safety deposit box keys.
Ah, okay, got it. So like a slaughter.
Yep.
Oh,
yep.
okay.
Just sold one of those to one of the other safe lock manufacturers the other day.
Yeah, that's great. That's great for that. And that brings us to the push keys that are going on. Are you selling those now? Is that a product? Is that a commodity?
Yeah, and I see Tom's with us as well. So yeah, Tom and I got together, and we've been doing more of this lately, the last 5 years or so. You know, we started with A1. I got together with one of their guys. We started developing a few of their products. One of my other friends, our safe deposit killer kit was David Taylor's idea, and he sent it to me. We started selling that. Tom started talking to me about push keys. And so I do apologize to Tom. We've been slow at getting them out, but we've got the Ford set out right now, the Ford door lock set. In the machine shop are sitting some blanks for Subaru and Toyota. And I always just bounce it off of Tom, what should we do next? And Subaru and Toyota are on we have to get them through the machine shop first, and then they will be available. But yeah, it's fun working with people. We don't obviously know it all. You know, we see things through Frank's Key and Lock Shop eyes when we're working with, you know, different tools and different aspects of the industry. So to have somebody like Tom who's got a pretty good knowledge, well, a great knowledge of automotive, you know, having him working with us is fantastic for us. So
oh, absolutely. When I had trouble because I don't do any automotive locksmithing whatsoever. We'll open cars, and that is rare even at that, to be perfectly honest. It's not my thing. It's just not something that I was that interested in. And so I just am lucky and privileged enough that I don't have to do it. You got all these clips and, you know, code software. And it just, I didn't find the automotive side very entertaining to me or very fulfilling. So I chose not to do it. But the concept, once we were kind of going through the motions and I started to understand, okay, you're sliding this in there, you're making precise, predetermined, small cuts designed to catch or give you an indication at specific strategic depths to be able to determine where those wafers are from outside the lock. Now, obviously, for the last 5-10 years, maybe, I'm not sure exactly how long Lishi tools have been out, but they've been the staple mark. They've been the go-to. They revolutionized the whole automotive industry because all of a sudden you can start decoding through the door and then progressing the ignition, provided they're still the same or nothing's been replaced. And then you don't have to mess with all the little clips and tearing doors apart. My goodness, nowadays with side curtain airbags and all kinds of stuff in the door, that's the last thing that you want to do is start tearing stuff apart. Right. So I thought it was just absolutely genius the way that has come together. And I don't know, I believe he came up with that whole concept. But it was just genius. And as soon as he started going through it, it instantly clicked. And I was like, that's amazing. That's absolutely genius. Now you can not only make a key for it, you can tell the cuts, you can tell the depths. Heck, you can diagnose what wafer could be pinched, crushed, non-existent, worn, or not interacting anymore whatsoever, or hung up through this system of push keys. If you have not taken the push key seminar or class, make sure you do. I have it in my website over here. So what I'm going to do is, and I see Thomas is on here and his microphone is unmuted. I'll let you go into it just a little bit further, Thomas, in just a second. But that class is recorded here. And let me know if you can see, do you have that QR code in front of you? Can you see that? Phil, anybody?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, so if you scan that QR code, or I'll put it in here, that class is in there, and it is very, very good. If you're not a member or anything, try the 7-day free trial and at least watch that class with push keys with Thomas, and you will get a whole new concept and a whole new way of thinking about automotive and automotive locks. So scan that with your phone, or I'm going to put that in the chat description here. Go ahead and tell us a little bit. Give us a really brief description of that, Thomas, if you would, please.
All right. Wafer locks is the subject. Push keys are designed just to measure the height of a wafer in the lock without having an obstruction by buzzers or things that come in from the side, without getting stuck in the lock. It was just, it's something that you could only do with a Framon 2. I called Phil up and I says, Phil, your machine is unbelievable. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, I can make tools with your machine. And he's like, don't say nothing.
Right.
But it's gone on to a point now where I'm constantly working on different keyways and different applications that the idea can actually attack. And the things that we have waiting in the background are lots. All right. We're taking it nice and slow. Phil is doing his thing, and I appreciate everything he's done, and I appreciate everything he's going to be doing. So I just keep pushing from my side, real easy. The most recent project I worked on the last 2 weeks was the Mazda. As of right now, Mazda was thought to be undecipherable. Push keys can do it.
Oh boy!
I was so happy. I'm like, I got it finally. So that's what I'll do. I take a lock and I spend some time on it and go through a lot of key blanks. Yes, I do. I get yelled at about that, but
that's okay.
There's push keys for high security locks, whether it's General Motors, Volkswagen, BMW, Mercedes, regular locks, 01122s. The thing is that it's an idea that can apply across a lot of different locks, but it's just addressing the height of a wafer. It's supposed to be, how do I say it? You've got to get the idea in your head what's going on. And once you understand what's going on, then you can move forward. But there's a big black hole when you start using the push keys, because it's like, okay, this key goes in, but what does that mean? And this is where some instruction comes up. Phil does a nice video on the U-Hauls he's got over by his lot, and he makes it look easy. Right. So, yeah.
Yeah. And as soon as, like I said, as soon as we did one of these meetings, we did one of these monthly Zoom meetings on push keys, and you were the guest and you showed how to do that. And that was phenomenal. Like I said, anybody that wants to watch that, send me an email or join the Wayne's Lock Shop group there. There's a free 7-day trial. It's not even going to cost you anything. You can just go there and you can apply and watch it for free. I'm not in it to nickel and dime everybody. I want people to get this information. So that's why we offer that. But my mind was literally blown. Like, it makes so much sense. Those wafers, if you can sight read a lock, I mean, if I summarize it down, the way you sight read a lock is you look and you see where the different wafers are hanging and in that lock, and based on that orientation, it gives you a clue as to where what those cuts are going to be. Well, the push key just has those cuts that actually drive into there. So you basically turn, instead of using a scope or using some kind of optic to go in there to sight read, you're using a feeler or like a feeler gauge. The key is your feeler gauge, right? You're just going in there. And then when you have a 1 cut, it's going to click, click, click. And then you try the next one with your 2, click, click, 3, click, and then you can decipher and you can decode the whole thing. It makes perfect sense. It's actually genius. And even though they get more complicated, they're still working. Almost all of it still works off the same system. Sidewinder keys or any of the other keys, it's still, you still have wafers that have to line up and they still hang in that lock in a specific point. And if you can design a tool that can interact with it and give you precise indications, you can record, track that, and generate a key. It's that simple.
And the push keys can measure stuff to a point now where we're talking 5/1000ths of an inch. So if you guys cut a key on your key machine and you stick it in and you go to turn it, if it's off by 5/1000ths of an inch, let's say it's high by 5/1000, you go to turn that key and it just drags. Oh, you can feel it. Same thing with push keys. If you have the correct orientation, as far as sliding the key in, instead of going up or going down, nice and even going in, you can actually measure a difference of 5/1000ths of an inch accurately.
Wow, that's amazing. Your class was offered at the last Aloha convention. Are you going to be teaching that again?
If they ask me back, I would love to. I get a big kick out of it, and I can talk for hours on this stuff. And sometimes I worry about, am I getting my point across? Am I it's like, I wish I could just drill a hole in the head and just pour it into someone else's brain. But so I do a lot of drawings. I do a lot of demonstrations, a lot of videos. All this seems to help.
Yeah, no, I thought your class was great. I thought, like I said, you took something that I had never even heard of or thought of or had any capacity to try and comprehend whatsoever, and not being an automotive locksmith. And within 10 minutes, I understood the concept and I could break what you were saying down so that others could explain it too. That's how simple it is once you get the concept of it. So I really do hope they bring your class back. There's a lot of Aloha higher ups here. So there you go. If you're listening, make sure you bring the push key class back. I found it extremely entertaining. I thought it was a pretty big hit. You had a pretty full class last time, didn't you? Yeah. So hopefully that comes back, and hopefully they reach out to you to go ahead and do so. I'll just go ahead and do a little screen share with the Aloha page here. We do like to make sure that we support Aloha. And if you're not a member, I highly recommend becoming a member. They are doing a lot of training and a lot of new things. We're seeing a lot of new younger guys getting up on the board, and there's a lot of changes coming, and there's a lot of changes for the better. So if you're not an Aloha member, I would at least look into it. And if you need a sponsor or you need sponsorship, message me or private message me, find me. I'll put my email in the chat box. You can message me, and we'll try and get you set up with those guys over there. But they put on a great training program. And their training is top notch. It really is. You have to go through a training program to be a trainer. You have to go through ACE certification to be an educator for them in most cases. And that really helps out. I've gone through that training, and it definitely opened my eyes to a lot of the things out there. They've got a podcast going on. They really do have quite a few things to offer. So if you've been considering it, by all means, check Aloha out and become a member. If you had something that didn't rub you right before, that was years ago. There's a whole new board on there now. It's completely different people. And I think they're doing a lot of good things for the industry. So I really want to let people know that they're doing a lot of good things out there. Let's go back to Phil. What else do we have? That's push keys. That's an amazing invention. What else do you guys have going on?
Oh, what else? So of course we bought Blue Dog keys about 5 years ago. That's a never-ending job finding all these odd things and strange keys. On an average day, we probably see 10 to 15 keys. Dennis just sent me one today actually for an MMF cash drawer key. So yep. So we run into that all the time. And, when you see a key once, it's kind of like, well, we're not sure what it is, but, third or fourth time you see it, you realize you got to go and try and locate it and figure out where you can get it. One of the I guess the sad things in the industry now between keys and key blanks. We do a lot of work with the folks at Easy Keys. They use our key machines to cut their keys. Great people from that aspect, but they're also very good at communicating with the lock manufacturers, getting the code list distributed to them, and they're the only one that gets it. And so a lot of code series aren't being distributed anymore like they used to be. So Chicago Lock, Compex, things like that. A lot of these brands are strictly working with Easy Keys. They're the only ones with the codes. So you either get to go impression your lock or order a key from Easy Keys. But yeah, it's tough coming up with codes for a lot of these new things.
Yeah.
So,
No, and I think that's great that you're making the effort to keep those key blanks going, to keep offering them, the package deals that you have. I mean, I can't tell you how many times that RV key master key set, what is the there's Trimark and there's one other one, right?
Global Link and FIC.
Global Link, and yeah. And I can't tell you how many times that saved me, because those locks, a lot of times it's not that they forgot the keys. I go out in Colorado. This is a really, really high outdoor environment, a lot of camping and campers, and the housing environment is so bad that there's a lot of people living in campers full time because people can't afford $800,000 for a single family home right now. It's just insane. And a lot of times there's a failure. You can pick that lock until you're blue in the face. This lock is not a hard lock to pick. Your basic camper locks are not very hard to pick at all. But when you have a failure, you have a whole new set of problems. Well, if I can actually get a key and I can show them, look, it's turning, we now have a failure, we need to move on to other things, like the deadbolt comes disconnected, or something's jammed in there. I had one person, the door actually got so hot. The only thing that we can figure at all is that the door got so hot, it swelled and got into a bind, and they broke their key off. And we were able to determine that because I was like, well, look, I can move it now that the door's open. It's not closed anymore. And by that time, the sun had kind of gone down and things had happened. And I got the key extracted. And I said, look, it's working fine now. It's just that door was 150 degrees. Those things expand. You get one little thing in there, and it causes a major problem. So it's not that it's difficult to unlock or difficult to pick. It's actually just nicer. And then you've got the key right there. Cool. Now I got a blank. I can catch you a key. And now I made an extra $20 on top of the lockout. It works great. Those master key sets are extremely valuable to have. The equipment key master sets are extremely valuable to have. That's just something that, a lot of times they'll call you and I'm like, well, I don't even have the key blank for that right now. Now I can go give it to them. Here's your cat key or whatever it is, John Deere. They're all on there. Komatsu, Case, all of them. And you give them that one key, and then I can order it back from you and put it back on my master ring. And I made my money for that day. I still charge a service call, make a key to lock or sell key to lock or whatever it is. That's still $150, $180 just to go out there and hand them a key. It's easy money.
Yep.
and
their dispenser key set as well here.
I was just going to mention the dispenser key set as well. Yep, that's the one. We just posted a video on that. I just had that the other day. National service providers, if you do any kind of work for NSPs or national service providers, you get work all the time because they can't find the key for the toilet dispenser or the paper towel dispenser or soap or hand sanitizer or whatever it is. Extremely valuable to have those for sure. What's your number one request from Blue Dog Keys?
In terms of which key or which service?
Well, do both. Which key and which service?
So our keys, the most popular keys right now are probably architectural mailbox keys, the BD 861 and 863. We also came out with the stack on safe key, yes. The double-sided one. It's actually an Illinois key.
Another very, very valuable one. Those happen all the time. I get those all the time. And now we can make a key for them too.
Right.
Impressionable lock.
Everything we do is small quantities. So, we're not out buying 200,000 key blanks at a time. We're buying 1,000 or 500 or whatever. So, a lot of the keys are pricey, but the thing that just drives me crazy, in our shop, we're in a town of 11,000 people. Median household income is $40,000. That's for a couple, $40,000 per family. You know, we charge $8, $9 a piece for RV keys, and nobody blinks. I mean, people are going out buying $120,000 campers with granite countertops and leather couches. They walk in and you tell them it's 40 to $50 for a set of keys. They don't care. And so locksmiths need to charge to cut these keys. If we charge you $3, charge 12, charge 15. You can't go down and get one of those mailbox keys cut at Home Depot. They'll sell you the mailbox, but they don't have the keys.
They don't have the keys.
I mean, take those higher price Ilco keys and jack them up. I mean, you know, if you walk up, wait on a customer and cut them a $3 quick set key, you lost money. I mean, if you cut them 5 keys, you lost money.
Yeah.
You know, for the time it takes you, writing up a receipt, everything else, all your overhead, that's a losing deal. But buy a key for $5 and sell it for 20, and now you're starting to make some money on your key blank duplication. I mean, some guys think because a blank costs you 20 cents, you shouldn't be charging a lot of money for it. I mean, I totally disagree with that train of thought. Locksmithing is becoming a profession, and it's changed over the last 30 years. Used to be the retired guys that were looking for something else to do that want to go open up a car. I mean, now it's specialized. I mean, there's so much we do that you can't get done by anybody else. It should be a job where, you should be charging $75 to $100 an hour. I mean, at least. And I definitely preach that all the time. I don't set my rates based on my competitors. I set my rates based off of other professional trades. I call the plumbers, I call the diesel mechanics, I call the electricians. What are you guys charging? Oh, you're charging $148 for $150 for a service call? Cool. I'm charging $148. What are you charging an hour? $104 or $145 an hour? I think we're up to $137 an hour now. And then safe work is even more on top of that. Safe work and electronic access is $185 an hour. And I'm getting it with no complaints. So there is no reason that people can't raise their rates. And if you're afraid to, a lot of people say, well, then they'll go to my competitors. They really won't. They really won't in most cases. I see that every time we raise up our rates, I really don't lose any customers because of it. And it's very rare that I quote a price over the phone and they say, nah, you're too expensive. We're going to go to somebody else. The only time they do that is lockouts. And that's not my main gig anyway. That's just icing on the cake. That's a tow truck driver job.
Yeah. I mean, will I pick up that extra $125 if I'm rolling by? Well, heck yeah, that's just icing on the cake, but I'm not going out of my way to go do it. So hopefully people are kind of realizing that. And man, this turned out to be an amazing meeting. We got 50 participants in the Zoom meeting and we have about 12 people watching. And that usually ends up being quite a bit more as people see it later. So this has been a phenomenal meeting. Does anybody have any questions? We are coming up on about an hour. We can go a little bit longer if there's more questions and interest. But would anybody like to post a question in the chat box? Or if you'd like to unmute your microphone and chat with myself or Phil, go ahead and please do so. Phil, go ahead. You got your hand up.
I just want to say one thing to Phil. I remember Frank saying that Penn, Ohio was the best salesman he ever had. We had a class called A Day in the Life of a Locksmith, and it was like fundamentals. You had stations you had to go to and do everything. One of the stations was code cutting. We had a Jensen, a Framon, a 1200, and they had to cut code keys on every one of the 3. And they would promptly leave the class and head straight for the show floor and buy Frank's machine.
Yeah, hey, I'd like to bring up on Phil's dad. When I was getting into locksmithing back in '82, I went up to Massachusetts. I was up there in the service, and they had a show at Danvers, and so I go up there, and in the show, and my wife's with me, and came by. I didn't know Frank Agius from a moonshiner, and he was there. And I said, "What's this?" I said, "Well, that's my machine." Yeah, okay, well, tell me about it. All I heard was HPC. HPC or Jensen was the only thing cooking. And I just liked the look of it. And he said, let me show you. Your wife know anything about locksmith? I said, no. So he sat there and took the time to show her how to cut a key for a master padlock. Said, do this, do that. She cut it. Of course, it worked. I said, there we go. And I had one coming. I've got 2 of them right now. And, but it really impressed me. And then over the years of knowing him and the Frank and Bill show and Hank Spicer, that was a bunch, man. I tell you, you get those guys together. But seeing that I've got an outlet here, I'll pass that on. And anybody that, it's like, to me, I wouldn't even consider another code machine. Yeah, they've got this, they've got that, and all this other stuff. Think about it. All you got to do is know how to count. Oh, it's too much trouble. Okay, that's fine. And I also like Wayne's outlook on automotive stuff. I used to do piles of that stuff. No more. That stuff's crazy. But I would like to learn about that push key concept. And but anyway, enough of me here. I just want to take a chance to run my mouth a bit.
Oh, thank you. No, thank you. That's great. Phil, do you want to respond to that?
Oh, no, I've probably known Dennis from the 5th or 6th trade show I went to when I was back, early 90s. So Dennis and I have got a long track history together. But yeah, he was one of those guys that I always remember was around at, all the different shows. And there was a big group of them. I just went out to the Philadelphia show a couple months ago, and a lot of those guys. I mean, that was my dad's stomping ground for a lot of years. The GPLA show and MLANJ, and just a lot of these people that you've known for a lot of years. Dennis, you're obviously one of them. Tom, there's Bill Mandelbaum. It's great. It's great to see young people coming in. It's always great to see the old faces and hear an occasional new story that I hadn't heard before. So
great. Thank you so much. Phil, will Framon make the A1 tubular pick?
Tubular pick. I have not seen that I know of. So I don't know at this time. I guess I would say there's a couple of other A1 products we're interested in. Right now, finding machine shop time is nearly impossible around here. Our machine shop is backed up probably months right now. So right now, we're not looking at any new A1 products, but the hurdy-gurdy has always interested me for a small tubular key cutter.
I think ProLock took it over, it looks like, if I look at it correctly. So it looks like that might have already happened. It looks like somebody might have already done that. Okay, great. Let's go down the line here. Are there any other questions? Phil, will you be visiting Lockmasters in 2023 for pure auto classes?
Yes. So we're going to try to get 2. I think they've got 2 in Kentucky and 1 in Maryland, if I'm not mistaken. I think August and April, maybe. I was just looking at the show calendar. So we're going to try and get there. We usually go in for key generation day and help cut some keys. And usually I get to do a little spiel down there. So hopefully we'll be at Pure Auto. They've also got the professional locksmithing classes. I think every month we may show up to a few of those. But I do want to get back to Pure Auto. I used to go to them all the time when Jeff Cooper was teaching, and with COVID, it's just kind of changed the way things have gone. But hopefully this year we're at both.
Perfect. Excellent. Bill, you got your hand up. Go ahead.
I just want to make sure that you all know that Hank Spicer, Frank, and Bill Reed, their goal was to be able to raise the level of professionalism in our industry. And that was where you saw a lot more education because there just wasn't a lot of it. So between Leonard Singer, whose wife still is a member of the Lock Museum of America in Terryville, Connecticut. By the way, they just had their 50th anniversary this year. And those were the people that really attempted at all costs to raise the professionalism of our industry. And that's really, I believe, their goal.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. That's great. And hopefully that's what we're trying to do here too, is trying to bring people back together. It seems like the associations and people are kind of scattered out a little bit now. We're trying to bring everybody back together in a way that's easy to use, that's that we can all meet each other and talk about things. And really we're our own best resource, to be 100% honest. The ideas that come from within from the people that understand the trade and industry are the ones that really need to be listened to. And that's who we need to be talking to and communicating with. I mean, look at the intuition that Phil's father had to come up with this machine, not being, not having a background in business, knowing how to market it, knowing how to just go off the fly and produce this machine that's still, to this day, I still say you can't go find another machine that you can compare to this one as far as durability and longevity. And I don't think you can do it. I really don't. All the new machines are nice. Heck, I got a Triton, I got all kinds of stuff. But nothing really survives like that machine did. So thank you. Thank you for that. Appreciate that, Gilbert. Bill Mandelbaum, you had your hand up. Your mic's off. Your mic's off, Bill.
For some reason, my space bar was not unmuting like it should.
Okay.
I just wanted to put in a plug as President Beloa that this fall we will be doing an automotive convention with the automotive division based on pretty much the same thing as Just Cars has been having. So if you want to learn automotive, keep looking at the Aloha website for the convention coming up this fall.
That's great. That's great. Have you talked to Thomas about push key classes? That I'm sure that would fit right in there if possible. It might be too late now, but I can tell you that I took that and it was amazing. I got to sit in it at the last Aloha event, and phenomenal work. It looked like the students were really engaged with it and kind of mind-blowing to all of them as well. So great. Yeah, Aloha, this is the spot. This is the stage. Plugs for Aloha and training and upcoming events, things like that. This is the place to display it. So if anybody has any of that, please do let me know. Let's see. Let's go down the questions here. Mark Dawson just purchased all the carriages and wheels needed for the number 2 for $200. That's awesome. Great story tonight. Lots of people love it. Look forward to seeing you. Filing for the dollar. Hank was great. Seen Hank Spicer one time 35 years ago. Let's see. Okay. Go ahead.
I was just going to say Hank Spicer. I saw the comment about Hank Spicer. I don't know how many people actually that are with us know who Hank was, but he was like one of the first guys that figured out how to impression a sidebar lock, and to watch him do it was magical. I mean, nobody could impression a GM lock, but holy mackerel, that guy could do anything with an impressioning file, it seemed like. So yeah, he was amazing to watch.
Great. That's great stuff. I don't see any more questions in the comment section or in the chat section. If anybody else has questions, please go ahead and do so. Do you have another comment there, Bill?
Just wanted to say on what Phil just said, I sat in many classes with Hank Spicer, and he would sit there in class and hand you a GM and say, read me the depths of this key. You would read the depths, 4, 5, 1, 3, 6. By the time you finished, he had a door key filed, hand filing it. He was that good.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing.
The talent that's out there in the industry with some of the people and what they do all the time is very amazing. And when I see Wayne on some of his videos putting up doors and hinges and stuff like that, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, and we all can learn from each other. That's the beauty of it, is that if people are willing to, go through the classes and stuff and work with organizations like Aloha and all the different divisions they have, you can just be an automotive locksmith. Now you can just be a commercial residential. You can just be a safe technician. There's more than enough work for all of those separate individual specialties, or you can dabble in a little bit of all of it. The trade, the talent pool in the trade is second to none. And I really think locksmithing attracts a lot of people who are very, very talented and creatively thinking people. So I agree 100%.
Well, who else out there would spin a safe dial at 30,000 RPMs?
Yeah, yep. That was
cool.
fun. I'll give
That
credit
was
to
cool.
Dave for that. I did hear that through them. Like we kind of both had ideas, but they did do it first. I did it first on camera, I guess. But
Okay.
yeah, it was definitely pretty cool to watch a safe lock explode.
Hey, Wayne,
Yes.
I'm working with my 19-year-old grandson. He's been with me 2 years now in locksmithing, and I'd just like to encourage other locksmiths out there, if they have younger people in their shop, that they should get them involved with Wayne's Lock Shop and what you're doing. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. That's great right there. And it's great to hear that you've got some young blood coming up. That's amazing. I love seeing younger guys. Love seeing them at the shows, the trade shows, the classes, really seeing those guys dive in and dig in and latch onto this. That's what we need. We need to train the next generation, because I think, unfortunately, we're losing more of the talent pool due to retirement and old age than we're gaining in new people joining. It's a dying trade, but hopefully we can make it look flashy enough and interesting enough that we bring some of those new guys along and we stay out there. The social media aspect will bring more younger people to it as it reaches that area or that aspect. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Bill, did you have one more thing to add?
I just want to say, I've told Phil this before, but many of y'all probably have not heard this. The worst bitching I ever heard at a locksmith convention was from Frank Agius. We had a Penn, Ohio show, and they walked in, and somebody decided to set up the floor. They did not need somebody with like products side by side. Frank and Wiggy Jensen walked in, and they were separated by 8 or 9 booths, and they started bitching. They kept bitching the whole time till we moved them side by side. As soon as we moved them side by side, they're happy as 2 clams.
Yeah.
And I've sat there and I've seen Wiggy sell Frank's machines and Frank sells Wiggy machines. And one of them had to go to the bathroom. They sell each other's machines. Best of friends. Competitors, but they're best of friends.
Yep. Yeah. And that's really the way that this trade works a lot. I mean, I work directly. We'll go have lunch with some of the other competitors here, and we enjoy it. I enjoy sending my automotive work to somebody who I know is going to take care of them. They enjoy sending me work when they know we're going to take care of them, and we're on the same customer service base and the same, just overall morale and insight on business and how to treat customers. That's really what you want to do. You can network with other people and have a fantastic shop and have a fantastic business and work with people. It's so much easier to work with people and pull in that same direction to bring the industry, show the industry in the best light possible versus trying to argue and fight and pull each other apart. That's something we really need to work on not doing whatsoever. All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Tonight was an amazing meeting. We had about 60 people in here. Almost at one point in time. So these things are growing. They're growing really, really big, and they're doing really, really good. If anybody needs those links, again, you can, my emailer from Wayne's Lock Shop sends out that link every month. I've been sending it to Aloha, and they've been putting it out as well. And I think this is really, really a cool thing. And I think we really stumbled onto something fun here. So any other questions for Phil or anybody else?
Wayne, I think it was one question. Somebody had asked about any updates for our 2001 machine, which is our automatic machine. Okay. We're in the middle right now of a new control because our old control manufacturer doesn't really seem to want to put anything out right now. So we're changing controls. Actually, the same company that Laser Key Products uses. So hopefully that upgrade is done here in the next month or so. And then that control will actually allow us to do a little bit more with the machine. So just to answer that question, the other thing, I want to go back to what Gil said in talking about increasing locksmithing as a profession. Back in those days when my dad was teaching, some of the old timers will remember Mike Miller from Ilco. He was their safe lock person. Probably the greatest employee Ilco ever let go. But Mike was an absolute blast to have in class. I mean, he looked like Howdy Doody, big, tall guy, kind of gangly looking, but he was the most entertaining instructor I've ever seen. But one of the first things he would say, he would get people talking a little bit in class about rates and things like that. And he would get upset and say, if you're the guy that's going out there and opening cars for 35 bucks, quit doing it, find another job or raise your rates. And that was what he was all about, you know, getting paid for what you're doing. We hired a new service tech, 30-year-old kid. The first thing he did was walk in my office after he worked for us for a week and said, we need to raise our rates. My service call should be more money. My hourly rate should be more money. All this work that we're doing, it's, you know, we should be charging more for it. And I said, okay, you raise the rates, you set the rates, whatever you want to do, that's what we're going to do. And,
Nice.
you know, no one complains. If I can leave everybody with one thing, look at your price list and consider January 1st is coming. Great time to raise rates.
Right. And you know, when we talk about pricing and things like that, I hope nobody's getting the wrong impression and trying to say that there's any kind of price fixing or anything like that going on. That's not what I'm saying. And I'm sure that's not what you're saying too. We're saying charge what you're worth. How much do you spend in education? How much do you spend in travel? How much do you spend? I know I probably spend at least $10,000 to $15,000 a year on education, travel, going to the meetings, going to the associations, going and doing these things. And that's all money that comes right out of my bottom line. So where does that return on investment come back? That's where you really need to look at it and ask a lot of the older gentlemen that are probably getting towards retirement in this room right now. If you have the chance to capitalize and make sure that you are charging appropriately, there is a time where your body's just not going to want to do this anymore. And you're going to want to have that money in the bank account. You can't go back to the last 20 years of customers and say, hey, we raised our rates another couple of dollars, you know, and bring that in. You can't do that. You've got to plan for it now. And you need to plan for your retirement. You need to plan for a rainy day. You need to plan for getting hurt. A lot of people are one-man shops. And if you get injured, you're your own most valuable asset. It is surprising to me how many locksmith shops are one injury or one mechanical breakdown away from going out of business. And that is why we're saying charge what you're worth now. Don't go out there and kill yourself for 25 bucks. That's ludicrous. Gary, you've got your hand up. Go ahead, sir. Usually you can hit the space bar. You can hover at the bottom. There you go.
I had to figure out how to unmute. Yeah, since you're talking about money and everybody's mentioning Hank's, I want brain dead. Hank Spicer, right? Is it Spicer or Spence Spicer?
Yep, Hank Spicer.
Spicer, yeah. For some reason, I went brain dead. I'm getting old. I knew Hank, and I remember one time talking about money. He says one time I went to. Somebody locked the keys in the trunk of their car. So I went and I made the key, and, you know, he's fast and impressioning. He impressioned and opened it up. The guy says, what? He says, for that kind of money, he says, you charge more than a doctor. And the guy wouldn't pay Hank. He says, I'm not paying you that. Well, they agreed on the money before he left his house, but now that the job's done. So Hank says, no problem. He threw the keys back in the trunk of the car, slammed the trunk, and says, go call your doctor and tell him to come get the keys out. Got the car and left. And I've learned many times, I don't argue about money. We make a deal. I go to a job, and when I'm done, they'll say they want to take $50 off. You know, if we agree on 200, I get there and say, will you take 150? I'll say, absolutely not. We agreed on 200 or I wouldn't have left my house. If you wanted to haggle with the price, that's before I leave the house. But now that the job's done, it's too late to haggle, you know. So I learned that from Hank. And Bill Reed, I had the privilege of knowing Bill Reed, but at the time I met Bill Reed, his sweet wife, Carolyn, I haven't seen her in years. I think she passed away too, didn't she?
Nope, she's still alive.
She's still alive. Wow. Yeah, so I haven't seen her in years. But I went to dinner with Bill Reed, and I'm under the impression he was the Bill Reed. I'm thinking it was his father at the time. So I'm thinking, man, I've been reading this guy's code books for so many years. He says to me, what are you going to eat? I said, I'm going to eat whatever you eat. I want to live as long as you eat. And then we found out, he said, no, you're talking about my father. Well, he looked pretty old back then. You know, he looked like Santa Claus, you know. But he was a real guy. If anybody ever met him, remember he truly did look like Santa Claus.
He did.
But anyway, but I'm an automotive locksmith. I love automotive, and this is the first time I've heard about push keys. So I'm really, really interested. And Thomas Phil, I wrote your name down. Is there any way I can read more about these? Do you have like an email or something I can research this? I want to take a closer look on these push keys.
I have the entire class put together, and I'll put my email in the chat box.
Okay.
So,
and then these are for also like high security keys. The push keys will work for that too.
I believe so.
Oh, that's great. Okay, and that's it.
Yeah, no, thank you for all the comments. I'll put it's Tri-County Locksmith Service at gmail.com, but I'll put it in the chat box here. Just copy and paste it. Or however you found me, ask for an email or something. Somebody will know how to get a hold of me.
All right, thanks.
Thank you for your comments. We really appreciate that. That's very honest and sincere, and it's great to hear all these stories from different people. Let's see, who else? Does anybody else have any questions, comments, concerns? Anybody? We'll leave the mic open for a minute.
Yeah, keep these sessions going there. I just found out about you here recently and kind of look forward to this today.
Good.
And I look forward to the next one. So
where did you hear about it?
Well, it came through on a link, and it said Phil, and y'all were going to be here tonight. And I had some dealings with Phil, so I didn't know if he was prepping for the presentation or what, but it's very informative. Good to see all these older fellas out here that know about some of these guys. Just hanging out. That's all we can do.
Yeah, great. I'm glad we're bringing that. We need to capitalize on making sure the older knowledge gets passed down for sure. And that's what I hope to do with this. And we definitely, the first Monday of every month is when we have these meetings. First Monday of every month, 5 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. We try and get notifications out, but I mean, there's a million different ways people get information now. If you're on any kind of social media, that's usually where I'm at. Hopefully Aloha can keep sending these out, the notifications out. We definitely support and promote Aloha across the board, and we can get more suppliers in there too.
Yeah, getting that ID, the Zoom ID and the password. There's been many a Zoom and different subjects that I couldn't get in because I didn't have the right password or I had the case wrong or something like that. And I'm sure it changes with each meeting, right?
I've actually set this one up to where you should, if you have the link to this one, we should be able to use this one for the next year.
The same ID and the same password.
Same ID and same password and everything.
Okay, yep. Great. Okay.
Yep. Somebody says it's on ClearStar, NSO. I mean, we try and do all of it. Take care, Wayne, Hank, the tattoo man. All right, good. Let's see. Keith, go ahead. You got your hand up, sir?
I'm Kelvin. How you doing?
Oh, I'm sorry, Kelvin. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Your name's this big. I'm so sorry. Kelvin.
Yeah, you haven't heard from me in a while. I've been pretty busy, but one thing I want to say is that over the last couple of years, I believe that most locksmiths have really understood how valuable they are. We are essential workers. We are valuable, and we need to charge accordingly. I mean, that's just the bottom line because we've invested a lot of money. I've been in this industry since 1993. I've taken classes from Bill Reed, Hank Spicer, Jerry Finch. I've taken from the best, and these guys, they were valuable. And I'm letting you guys know you're valuable. And we solve problems. I mean, we solve a lot of problems that people don't understand, don't know how to solve, don't have a clue. And some people look at us as magicians. I tell you, the leaf sheet tools, they are a game changer. I mean, I consider myself very good at lock picking, but the leaf sheet tools just make it even easier. I opened one door for a guy. He was a real estate investor. I mean, I got that door open in less than 30 seconds. And I started to kind of hesitate because I didn't know if the guy was going to pay me because I charged him $125, but he was like, boy, that was amazing. He was just amazed, but Wayne, you talk a lot about bench time, and that bench time is important because if you spend some time with that leashy too, and I'm not promoting just leashy, I'm just saying whatever profession you spend that time doing the bench time, when you show up and you do the job efficiently, people are going to be amazed, but they don't understand the time you spent, the hours you spent, the reunions you didn't go to, the weddings, the recitals, the things that you sacrifice. So I'm letting you guys know you all are very valuable. And over the last couple of years, I believe we as locksmiths understood our value because people are dying off. People they're not out there like we were out there. And we just continue to learn. So I think our industry is going to survive. I think it's going to thrive. We just have to start sharing information with each other and just understanding that we're valuable and charge accordingly. Because I believe our industry was infiltrated by a lot of I won't even say the word, but a lot of other people, because they saw the value and they charged accordingly. And some of them overcharge. And I'm not saying gouge anybody. I'm just saying charge what you're worth, because we spend a lot of money in tools and education. I've been to many of the lower conventions. I'm a part of LSA, and we just need to charge accordingly, guys. That's all I'm saying. And I just feel like we are much more valuable than we think we are, because we solve problems. That's what we do. We solve problems that nobody else even wants to tackle. And they're looking at us like, how did you guys do that? Well, I've been doing this for 30 years. I should know something about this industry now. So I'm just saying, I appreciate all you guys, all your knowledge, all your information. This is a good industry, and I believe it's a good time to be a locksmith.
I think so too. And thank you for all those words. I agree 1,000% with what you're saying. It takes 10 hours on the bench to do it in 5 minutes in the field, or 30 seconds, or whatever it is. You don't just go out to a high security, TL rated safe at a jewelry store and get it open in an hour because you followed directions. You process have eliminated everything until you got to the problem, and you have to have an understanding of that mechanical device inside and out, upside down and backwards. And it kind of goes back to like the old military sayings, like 2 is 1, 1 is none. The more you bleed in, or the more you sweat in training, the less you bleed on the battlefield. And it's the same exact way here. The more training you put in, the more you put that little tool or leashy tool or whatever you want to practice with by the couch, and the more you play with it, the more you're going to get muscle memory, and the easier it's going to become. If you don't put in the time and the effort, it's not going to come that naturally to you. And that's my favorite thing when people say that, how did you do that? Locksmith magic. I just sprinkle a little locksmith magic on there, and it just opens up every time. I whisper. I'm the lock whisperer. I whispered to it, and we had a conversation. He decided to open up tonight. So awesome job. Thank you for your comments. I really appreciate them. We'll see you more on the LSA meetings and more of these meetings and all that fun stuff. And Phil posted his contact information. Phil@Framon.com is the email address. Telephone number is 989-354-5623. So if anybody has any needs to email him or get in contact, Framon's pretty easy to find. A couple thank yous. Thank you. You're welcome. Do we have anybody else that needs anything to say or has any questions, comments, concerns for the evening? Go ahead.
Something I started saying lately, because doing automotive stuff, I'm getting a lot of people who are going online and buying remotes and keys and stuff from Amazon or eBay or something like that.
Sure.
And as a company policy, I just stopped working with them. So if they bring me something from Amazon or eBay, I just don't do it anymore. And they started telling me, well, eBay said that I could just take it to a locksmith and the locksmith could do it for 10 or 15 bucks. And I said, well, you need to find an eBay locksmith for that, because a locksmith out here doesn't do that. Oh, well, where do we get an eBay locksmith? I said, I don't know. You got to call eBay and ask them where their locksmiths are.
Right. When people do that, the immediate response, and if you can have these things on the tip of your tongue and be very witty about it, you can change the tone of the conversation from frustration. They thought they were going to have to pay And you have to look at it from the customer's mindset. They did their research. They looked online. They're like, cool, I can buy this fob for this much. And I can get somebody to program it for, you know, 20, 50 bucks, whatever it is. Or they see $19.99 or $15.99 lockout service. That's all scam and fake and garbage. But that's what their expectation is. So when you tell them it's going to be 10 times that, they're going to get a little bit upset with it. But I always tell people when they try and bring stuff to me, I tell them, I was like, do you go out to a steakhouse? Do you bring your own steak? Do you ask them to go in the back and cook it? No. Does that make your steak? Do they charge you $5 for grill usage? No, you pay 50 bucks, 60 bucks for the same steak like everybody else. And when you can really be a little more playful with that and not be so on guard and so defensive about it, you can actually steer that conversation into a positive direction. And I really hope people kind of take that away. And I hope that playfulness kind of comes back out and you can joke with your customer while still getting what you want, because the moment you start being rude about it, then they're going to try and call somebody else and they're going to have a bad taste in their mouth about the people in the industry. They'll probably find out the same answers because the next 10 legitimate guys are going to tell them the same thing. They're like, I'm not going to warranty that product. You bought it online. I don't know what it's made out of or if it's going to work. It might start your car once, but that might be it. And then you're going to come back to me and everybody knows because you made keys for a car. Well, when they get a flat tire, that's your fault too, right? You know, it doesn't, you got to use your parts. You got to stand behind your work. And if you're going to do quality work, that's just how it goes. So great stuff. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Any other questions, comments, concerns, anybody? Any last words for Phil?
Wayne, I just got to say one thing.
Yeah.
I got to get a shout out in. Anthony Berg, our machine assembly guy, has probably built 3 number 2s in the time I've been here. So he's we're behind on key machines right now. So he's been here all evening. If anybody heard any racket in the back, it's Anthony putting key machines together. So
oh, good.
In Michigan, it's 8:30 right now. So he's been here since 7 o'clock this morning putting key machines together.
Oh, good. That's good. That's good stuff. Awesome stuff. Any last questions, comments, concerns? Sheldon, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying that I just tell people when they call up and say if they bought it, I says, well, I hope you didn't buy it from eBay or Amazon. First words out of my mouth. Then I tell them that says, and then I give them the next 20 seconds, I tell them about the fact that, you're playing Russian roulette with who the actual seller and manufacturer of the key is. And there's absolutely no recourse or warranty. And then I go, that said, I charge this much, 99 bucks, and I'll cut and program your key. There's absolutely zero warranty.
Yeah.
And most of the time the keys actually work. The customer's happy, and I often get calls for other jobs. However, I've had a couple of times where the keys did fail, and they didn't care what my key cost. They just wanted one that worked.
Yeah. And it's, that's the gamble you're going to take. But I think you're approaching it in a very good manner where you're being upfront and transparent with them. And hopefully you're getting it in writing too, that says, hey, you guys brought this to us. We normally don't do this. We really don't like to use non-OEM keys, but we'll give it a shot. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, you're out $100 and you got to buy my expensive key now too. As long as you lay all that out front first and they're completely understanding that, I don't see any issues with that whatsoever. Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate it. Bill, you got a hand up? Go ahead.
I just wanted to say I had a guy come in with a GM remote he bought online one time, and we charged $75 to program a remote for GM remote. It didn't work. Told him we could sell him one for $100 and program it and guarantee it. Nope, he's going to send it back. The fourth one finally worked. A $75 remote 4 times.
Way less expensive than your $100 key.
Oh, yeah.
Very good.
Plus his time wasn't worth anything, shipping it back and forth.
Very good. Well, good. Somebody posted, it would be interesting to know how many people's ages are here. So we've got 39, 78, 74, 38, 66, 38, 62, 58, 61, 39, 58, 73, 66. So it seems to be that 30s and 60s, 30s, 40s, and 60s. We need to fill in the gaps. Guys need to take on some more apprentices.
I was trying to type it in, but I'm 58.
And there you go. There you go.
Wayne. On here.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a question.
Yeah.
Shelton, where's your hat?
By the front door.
Oh, okay. I see you all the time there, and I'm going, who is that guy?
Oh, I almost went and got it too.
Yeah, that's the only way we know you. Okay.
Good
Made
stuff.
my day.
Good stuff. All right. Any last questions, comments, concerns? If we don't have anything, I'll let Phil have the last words. What do you want us to know about Framon Manufacturing moving forward, Phil?
No, I mean, I think we're somewhat unique because of the lock shop aspect. I mean, besides, we don't do a lot of automotive. We do program keys. Everybody's kind of been talking about that here the last few minutes. I mean, we still program keys. But, I mean, our guys are doing door closers. We're doing access control. We do all kinds of stuff. We're cutting keys, obviously, master key systems. But I think that puts us in a unique place with Locksmiths because, this is stuff we do every day. I mean, today I cut keys, I rekeyed locks. I mean, I did tech support calls for generic code. Everybody here runs around like a chicken with their head cut off because it's a busy place and we see a lot of things. So you're not talking to a salesman, you're talking to somebody who actually does the same thing as you. So I think that gives us a little bit of an advantage on everybody. We know what tools work and what don't, what doesn't. And, if we put something out, it's a pretty rough ride here before it makes it to the market. So, I think that kind of, as I said, I think that sets us apart from other people. Locksmithing has always been our major market. We do sell into the automotive industry a little bit, but really locksmiths are our bread and butter and, really where my dad started, 50 some years ago. So, just want to say thanks for everybody for coming, tuning in tonight and listening to my ramble. I can get going a little bit at times. So it was great to be a part of this. I appreciate it, Wayne. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for being a guest. I really think that everybody enjoyed a lot of those stories. I don't think there was any rambling at all. I think it was very nostalgic. I think it resonated with a lot of people, and it lets the newer generation know where they started and where the past was. And all of the easy gadgets that we have, you got the world at a fingertip right now. You used to have to dig and hustle and hunt for that work or have to keep track of it to be able to come up with a lot of the information that everybody takes for granted these days. So I hope that resonates with people. I'm sure your dad would be really proud about everything you've got going on now. If there's one thing that I think of when I think of Framon Manufacturing, it is quality, and they stand behind their product. I know if I buy something from Framon Manufacturing, I know it's either going to work and it's going to outlast me, or they'll take care of it and they'll make sure that we get a product that does. That's been my interaction every single time with every single key machine, every single jig, every single, the safe deposit tools, just everything that gets put out is top-notch quality. And it really shows that you're putting it through the paces before you're putting it out to the public, rather than letting the public find out the flaws and then try and play catch up. You guys are doing it right. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
All righty. With that, we will adjourn. I hope everybody had fun. These meetings are growing. Tell your friends, make sure we can get these emails out there, and we'll see you every Monday, first Monday of the month at 5:00 Mountain Standard Time. Have a wonderful day. And thank you for joining us, Phil. Thanks, everybody else. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Yep.